To the kingdom. Cheers. A toast to the king.
You elect will drink wine new with Yahweh Shai. You elect. As of right now, we say hopeful elect. You elective Israel out there will drink wine new with our Lord Yahweh Shai in his Father's kingdom, which is going to be the kingdom of heaven here on this planet Earth once Yahweh Shai returns. When our Lord comes back, one of the first things he's going to do is have a toast with his men. He's going to have a toast with his men, those that stood stiffly for his name and his Father's name. Let's read this one more time. Matthew chapter 26, verse 29. But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine, which is wine, which is made from grapes, as you know. And our Lord, he loves to drink, man. That's something that our Lord took pleasure in when he was here on this planet Earth. He's not going to do it anymore until he returns to do it with you. Showing just how much he loves his elect, man. He's not even going to drink until he does it again with you. I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. So what a moment that's going to be, man. And you can only imagine the quality of wine that's going to be. Our Lord Yahweh Shai, he has access to different things that we don't even know about, man. Access to different grapes you don't know about. Has access to an entirely different quality of life that we don't know about. But he's going to reveal it to you. He's going to give it to you when he returns. Now, you have what's called a loyal toast. A loyal toast. I'm going to read this real quick. A loyal toast is a salute given to the sovereign monarch or head of state of the country in which a formal gathering is given. In this case, the sovereign monarch or head of state would be Yahweh Shai. He's our sovereign monarch. He controls everything, man. But guess what? He's also going to extend that power to you elect. He's going to share that power with you. A loyal toast is a salute given to the sovereign monarch or head of state of the country in which a formal gathering is given, or by expatriates of that country, whether or not the particular head of state is present. In this case, the Lord will be present. So you're not going to have someone speaking for him giving a toast. He's going to host the toast. He's going to be there, man. We're living in a time we're going to meet Yahweh Shai. You're going to meet him face to face, which is proof also that we have to be changed. We can't meet the Lord like this. He's going to change you. He's going to crown you, and he's going to toast with you. Now let's read some more. It says, it is usually a matter of protocol at state and military occasions and a display of patriotic sentiment at civilian events. The toast is usually initiated and recited by the host, which will be Yahweh Shai, before being repeated by the assembled guests in unison.
To the kingdom. Cheers.
Sometimes when Akim are among each other, we'll do little small toasts. Brothers may be like La Yashirala, holding up cups. But imagine the Lord himself hosting it, man. And we join in. And I was reading something else, and pretty much they said in order to have what they call a loyal toast, you will use wine. That's the beverage of choice. And once again, our Lord, he's coming back, and we're going to see him with all that power, man. But he's going to extend that power to you. Now, reading on a monarch, it says a monarch is a head of state for life or until abdication, in this case for life. And therefore, the head of state of a monarch may exercise the highest authority and power in the state. Or others may wield that power on behalf of the monarch. And that will be you joint heirs. You different men that are going to reign with the Lord, man. Usually a monarch either personally inherits the lawful right to exercise the state's sovereign rights, often referred to as the throne or the crown, or is selected by an established process from a family or cohort eligible to provide the nation's monarch. In this case, the Heavenly Father Yahweh himself selected his son Yahushua. And once again, when our Lord returns, he's going to wield that power to you elect as well. Once again, he's going to change you, he's going to crown you, and he's going to have a toast with you. A kingly toast.
To the kingdom. Raise your glasses, my friends. A toast with the king. A toast with the king. Raise your glasses, everyone. A toast to a prosperous future. To the king. To our glorious future. To the victors, blow the spoils. Raise your glasses. Cheers. Raise your chalices to the golden age of our kingdom. A toast to the king.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Makakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. All right, and what I want to get into this morning, all right, dealing with this edition of morning, all right, news and prophecy, is dealing with energy wars, okay, and more. All right, because we have to understand this system that this devil, all right, is trying to establish, all right, this new world order, where it requires a lot of energy, okay, it requires a lot of resources, okay, and this whole, all right, new narrative now is what there's an energy crisis, okay, and this devil, wants to limit, people's access, all right, to energy, and mainly these fossil fuels, okay, because these fossil fuels are the main, all right, resource and energy resource to power this devil's, all right, new world order, okay. So we're going to see this narrative dealing with, limited energy, okay, for the fact that this devil needs to power, okay, his new world order infrastructure, man, which requires a lot, all right, of fossil fuels. It's going to require a lot of data centers, and what fuels those data centers, okay, is water, a lot of fresh water, okay, the drinkable water, and the fossil fuels, man. Okay, so what we're seeing now is these nations, jock for position in this new world order. Okay, is energy wars. All right, and what America was trying to do in this last war. All right, the elites, because when we speak about the elites, you have different factions. Okay, of these elites. Okay, and they all agree on this concept of the new world order. Okay, but what system they want to roll out? Okay, now we're starting to see friction. Okay, so we have to understand that this is what Esau Edom does. They always go to war over the new system. Okay, World War I was a war about conflicting systems. They wanted to get away from monarchs, okay, and deal with democracy because democracies are much easier to control, all right, for the elites. You see, World War II, all right, they established the small hats, okay, in the land of Israel, okay, as imposters, and they made what the American dollar the world reserve currency, and they used that currency to put the world in debt, okay. And one of the things that's linked to the American dollar, was the petrodollar, is energy. You really can call it the energy dollar, okay. And as long as there was, a heavy, as long as there a heavy, as long as there's a heavy demand for energy, okay, the dollar would always be dominant, and it can operate in debt. You see, America can operate in trillions of dollars of debt because of the petrodollar, because it's linked directly to energy, which is a high demand in energy. Okay. And if America, was able, okay, to take down Iran, okay, put a puppet regime in Iran, and has full control of the Strait of Hormuz, that would have put them in a position of power like never before, as far as controlling energy. Okay, so America, they took a risk because it was a high reward if they would have been successful. Okay, this would have been a highly successful. Okay, it could have been highly rewarding if it was successful, but it wasn't. Okay, so let's get into some things. Got quite a few information I want to get into. Let's get some precepts. All right, first and foremost, okay, because we know, as Yahweh Shai spoke about, all right, Satan being divided. Okay, and we know amongst these elites, they're all Satanists and pedos. They into, the rituals and witchcraft, and they're all into these things, and they're all with this new world order, which is an attempt to undermine the Most High through technology. Okay, they're all with their concept, man. Okay, but what we're seeing is competing systems to run this new world order, man. Okay, and they know that what they need energy. Okay, so it's in a war for energy. Now you go to Matthew 3:23, it says, and he called them unto him and said unto them in parables, how can Satan cast out Satan? And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. Okay, and Yahweh Shah speaking about Esau, man, the physical counterparts of Satan in the earth, man. Okay, Satan operates through the nation of Edom, beginning with the elites, man. Okay, lets you know that what, because it's the elites that's tapped into Satan. It's not the average Edomites that are just tapped in like that to Satan. Okay, it's the elites, man. Okay, the elites, all right, orchestrate, finance, okay, and set up these systems of, all right, that run the earth all under the banner of Satan. Okay, real quick, let's prove that. All right, but we know they will be divided, and now we're seeing them begin to war amongst one another about this new system, man. Okay, about this new world order and what system they want to run it with, man. Okay, because now yeah, let's get this real quick. All right, this is Second Thessalonians, all right, chapter 2 and verse 7. It says, you gotta say, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Okay, and this was the time of Edom, Rome. And what has Esau revived in the earth today, man? Rome again, but now Rome is digital, man. And remember, they was, how many civil wars did Rome have? Okay, so these devils, they always conquer, all right. But as they establish themselves, they eventually fight. Because when Esau has no one else, okay, to fight and conquer, he fight himself, man. Okay, Alexander, what happened when Alexander, okay, the Greek Empire was established under Alexander, they dominated the earth. Okay, at the death of Alexander, what did they do? They fought each other. Okay, this is Esau's nature, man. All right, it said, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work, only who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. And then shall the wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. That's the coming of Yahushua. Because that's what's going to end the madness that this nigga got going on. Okay, all these agendas and, starting this war to do this and setting this up and causing this to collapse. And, he need energy. He running out of, resources really to run his new system. He's panicking and scrambling, going on a land grab or resource grab. Okay, Yahushua just going to come in this nigga, man, and end the madness of this man's empire. But he's being revealed, the wicked. Okay, Esau, Edom. Okay, beginning with their heads, all right, Amalek, all right, these are the wicked. And you keep reading, it says, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan. Okay, after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders. All right, so this man comes after the working, the energy of Satan, with all power, signs, and lying wonders, man. And this goes into his technology, man. Okay, because through this devil's technology, man, he's been able to project himself as if he's all powerful, all knowing, and omnipresent everywhere at the same time, which the Lord has given this man immense power. Okay, like no other heathen, but he's still limited. Okay, but through this technology, man, he's really able to perform lying wonders, like he's more powerful than what he is. Okay, the devil has capabilities like no other heathen has had through the left hand magic and through this technology, but it's still limited, man. Okay, and these niggas are divided. You see? So let's go here, because who's going into it? The wicked is Esau, who's working, who's coming is after Satan. Okay, you go to Ephesians, all right, showing you the house of Satan. Okay, are these Edomites, man? Okay, so let's go here. Just to prove, because you go to Ephesians chapter 6, all right, in verse in 12, it said, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against the powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Okay, so what we have to understand, these elites are tapped into Satan. Okay, on a whole nother level. Okay, and what's happening amongst them is there's division. Okay, and you have these these battling, all right, ideologies amongst themselves. Okay, as far as the layout of this new world order. All right, and according to the scriptures, America is going to be X'd out the plan. Okay, we'll get to the point. These nations, all right, the Lord's going to use these nations to X America out the plan. Okay, which America, they went, for a major play. Because I say, if America would have hit, this would have been major. We're going to go into what it would have looked like if America would have hit like they wanted. Okay. But the exact opposite happened. Things are beginning to backfire. Okay. Because this devil doesn't have it all figured out. Okay. So when you go and let's see. Let's get this word against the rulers. I believe it was rulers. Yeah, I think that's the word. You go into the word rulers in the Greek.
Strong's G 2888, Kosmokrator. Kosmokrator.
Kosmokrator. Okay. In the Greek. And what it goes into is the Lord of the world, Prince of this age. All right. The Lord of this world, Prince of this age, man, which is Esau. Okay, the house of Satan. Okay. The house of Satan, man. They say the devil. Okay, and his demons. Let's go into. Okay, because Esau, he's possessed by Satan, man. Okay, I believe that's Cosmos. All right, we'll just get into that. All right, we're just looking at different things, but nah, man, Esau, Edom. Okay, these elites are the rulers of darkness of this world, this age. Okay, the spiritual wickedness in high places, man. You see, but the Lord, hey, Howard Shah is giving us the game, like these niggas will be divided. Okay, like I said, they agree with the concept of the new world order, global world order. Okay, and these devils been able to play both sides for so long. All right, but it's a light thing for the Lord to have these devils fall out and begin to war amongst each other, going into this new world order. Okay, and they've been full throttle with this new world order, especially under Trump, man. They really been pushing the gas. Okay, under the banner of MAGA and Trump. Okay, which Trump is just he's a distraction. He's an actor. Okay, who's tasked to distract. You know, even Trump. His thing was because at the beginning, Trump had got back a lot of trust in the government. People began to trust the government under Trump. Okay, but these devils roll out their new world order more and more, and because they can't hide it. Like, nigga, this is not for the people. Okay, this system that they're rolling out is not for the people, man. Most people are going to take this thing out of desperation. Okay, but as they roll this thing out more and more, all right, they make these certain moves, well, trust in the government has eroded again, because under Trump, you did have, a lot of trust, all right, a lot of buy-in from these Edomites, man, who wouldn't have trusted a Democrat, which, Democrat and Republicans one and the same. Okay, but under the Trump, okay, the whole MAGA thing, a lot of Americans, especially red-blooded Edomites, began to buy into and believe in the government again, like it was one of them in office, man. Okay, but what's being exposed? Trump is one of them. Okay, we're just talking about these elite billionaires that only care about their global interests. Okay, Trump don't care about America, man. He cares about global interests. The elites care about global interests, man. They're not loyal to nations. The elites are not loyal to nations. They're loyal to a system. Okay, and right now the American system has been their most effective system. American empire has been their most effective system to obtain the new world order. Okay, but now we're seeing prophecy, okay, beginning to void out, okay, this new world order. And this devil, he's going to be forced, the Lord is forcing this man to really make his moves, man, because he's wrapping this devil up, man. He's wrapping Esau up. Okay, the Lord is folding up this empire, man. You see, and it says, and if a kingdom be divided against itself, their kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand but have an end. So we're at this man end, you know, and there's divisions, you know, there's division amongst, you know, you simple Edomites, you know, you got MAGA against MAGA, you still got the left versus the right. Okay, the liberals versus, you know, so you got that on the simple level, but then at the top, okay, amongst these devils, man, there's division, man. Okay, because you know, as Esau has these agreements with these nations, man, there's no integrity in a deal with Esau has no integrity, man, and it can change on the whim. All right, and then this devil, he's what? An opportunist. Okay, we have to remember this devil is an opportunist, man. You see, so as things unfold, all right, according to prophecy, man, certain these nations gonna go, hey, they're gonna go with their move, man. They're gonna go with the power move, man. Okay, and ultimately, their first power move is gonna be to wipe America off the map. But guess what? They're not gonna have to go with. They're not gonna have time to go with any other move because Yahweh Shai gonna be on their ass. Okay, as America's being destroyed, Yahweh Shai is gonna enter the war, man, and close this thing out. Okay, so you get this word, Merizo.
Strong's G 3307. Merizo.
Okay, it says to divide, to separate into parts, to cut into pieces. Okay, to divide into parties, i.e., to be split into factions. Okay, to be split into factions, man. Okay, it says to disunite. Okay, so the Lord is breaking this thing up, man. It's going to lead to a war. And what we're seeing, all right, with America is America and these other nations is you have competing empires. Okay, and the three main nations are America, Russia, and China. Okay, which is major prophecy that Russia and America will face off. Okay, at the end of this thing. Okay. And right now, the only thing between Russia and America being heads up is Iran. Okay, Iran is the last buffer between America and Iran is the last buffer between America and Russia going heads up, man. And that path is already set for them to because Russia is what aiding China. That path is already set. Okay, the path is already laid out for Russia to eventually lock up with America, man. Okay, as these other prophecies unfold, as these devils are having to, you know, quickly roll out this new world order. Okay, well, the path is already, you know, that collision between America and Russia is already in motion. It goes also until the devil know he had but a short time, man. Okay, because this thing is spiraling out of the control of Esau, man. Now, let's go here. Let's say we go into some things, get some information. All right, then sum up what we see happening. Now, let's go here real quick. So let's just play a few minutes of this, few seconds. Not even probably a minute or two. Let's play a little bit of this, okay? Dealing with what we're seeing as these nations, okay, begin to scramble for these resources, man. Okay, so let's play this.
So why are they doing it? I mean, you've interviewed all these people. I think it's, 300 people in total? 80 or 90 of them from OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT. Why do you think they're doing it?
I think it's because they're driven by an imperial agenda. And that is why I call these companies empires of AI.
What do you mean by an imperial agenda? What does that term mean?
Empire is the only metaphor that I've ever found to fully encapsulate all of the dimensions of what these companies do and the scale that they operate and what motivates them to do what they do. And there are many parallels that you see between what I call the empires of AI and the empires of old. They lay claim to resources that are not their own in the pursuit of training these models. That's the data of individuals, the intellectual property of artists, writers, and creators. They're land grabbing in order to build these supercomputer facilities for training the next generation models. Second, they exploit an extraordinary amount of labor. They contract hundreds of thousands of workers all around the world, including in the US, to ultimately make these technologies. We can talk about that more. And they also design their tools to be labor automating so that when the technologies are deployed, it also affects labor rights because it erodes away labor rights. And this is a political choice that they have. Third, they monopolize knowledge production. So they project this idea that they're the only ones that really understand how the technology works. And so if the public doesn't like it, it's because they don't actually know enough about this technology. They do this to the public, they do this to policymakers, and they've also captured the majority of the scientists that are working on understanding the limitations and capabilities of AI.
You think they're gaslighting the public in a way?
They are, yeah. So if most of the climate scientists in the world were bankrolled by fossil fuel companies, do you think we would get an accurate picture of the climate crisis?
No.
And in the same way, the AI industry employs and bankrolls most of the AI researchers in the world. So they set the agenda on AI research in soft ways, simply by funneling money to their priorities so that only certain types of AI research are produced. But they also will censor researchers when they do not like what the researcher has found. And so I talk about the case of
And
Dr.
that's where you
Timmy
get into lying wonders. Okay, so the narrative that we hear about AI, all right, is exaggerated. Okay, and they only want those type of narratives that only speak, all right, in AI in a certain way that they want it to be, explained to the world, understood to the world. All right, and another thing she touched on, she said these AI companies, well, these are nothing but these corporations, okay, is nothing but the technology of the elite finance, okay, and this technology which the elites want to use, all right, to set up a new world order. All of these elites agree, okay, that they want to set up a technocracy, man. Okay, and the thing is, okay, what system is going to rule this technology? What nation is going to come in, okay, as the superpower? Okay, because you best believe all these nations, all right, are positioning themselves to be as strong as possible going into this new system. They want to lock into this new system with power. Okay, and the power comes from resources. You need physical resources. Okay, and control of resources. You know what I'm saying? In America, they went for the gusto with Iran. That's why, you look at it, it's foolish because it didn't work. Okay, but then now I'm looking at it because I've been, I stepped back for a few days and kind of been looking at different angle, so get back to it. Now, looking at it, America was going for the gusto. This would have been a major move. It was high risk, high reward. Okay, and what we're seeing now, America is dealing with the failure of it. But if America would have been able to make this grab with the Strait of Hormuz, that would have put them, and that would have gave them all the leverage over energy. Majority of the leverage dealing with energy, man. Okay, and the nations see how America does when they have leverage, man. They weaponize it. Okay, so as prophecy, which the scriptures speak about Iran, what being that wild boar coming forth with great power. Okay, which that's a hindrance, okay, to what the devils got going on, and ultimately it's all prophecy, man. Okay, it's bigger than Iran and these other nations. It's about prophecy. Okay, so let's go here real quick. Get a couple more videos, and then we'll go into all right, what it looks like, what America was attempting to do. Okay, just looking at it now from a perspective, I say they gambled. All right, they put everything, on this move, and now, okay, it backfired. So let's play this, play a little bit of this.
So that's the first thing politically, the political dimension. There's a lot of dissent in the ranks. MAGA is fracturing, and the longer this goes on, this is basically another nail in the coffin of the midterms coming up, and that's just a fact. And they've given the Democrats a great campaign platform with this undeclared war of aggression. So that's the political dimension. On the economic dimension, aside from everything that's been said already, the fact is this, and the Straits of Hormuz, it's never going back to the status quo anymore. Whatever the previous world order was that governed how things work in that part of the world, it's not happening anymore. And the other thing people don't realize, which is quite short-sighted, and this might be too deep for the MAGA mind, okay, it might be going too deep here, but why would Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and Google be putting these massive data centers in the Middle East? Because let me tell you, the cost of air conditioning alone, and I can tell you because they're doing the same thing in Arizona, and they're very expensive to maintain because of the heat. Okay, why are they doing that? Why? Because that's where the energy is. That's where the energy is to provide the base load of power for those energy intensive industries like AI and massive sprawling data centers. That's why Iran is targeting those Amazon cloud facilities in Bahrain most recently, as well as in the UAE and other places. That's where the energy is. So this idea that Trump's saying like, oh, we don't need to worry about the oil in the Middle East. We've got more oil. I can tell you that much, more oil than anybody has ever seen before. No, that's not true. It's a global market. The price of oil is global, and the energy intensive industries were based there, but they're not going to anymore. This is a new order in the Persian Gulf. So business as usual, it's not going to continue. So have they thought all of this out?
Yeah, man. So he made some heavy points, because when we think of the GCC nations, all right, we have to look at them as an extension of American empire. Okay, those are not, natural nations. They're pretty much synthetic nations that have been propped up. Okay, because the desert, all right, based on this lack of resources, all right, it's not built to maintain and sustain a population of that many people. Okay, but America was able to prop up those GCC nations, set up these different monarchs and dictators of these GCC nations, and they gave America, all right, control of a lot of energy. Okay, all that energy flowing through the Strait of Hormuz. All right, and America was able to sell that energy in dollars. Okay, and the dollars that those nations was getting, okay, they would invest, all right, into American treasury bonds. So they would invest back into the dollar, which kept the dollar double, triple strong. Okay, that's why America is immune to crises that destroy other economies. Well, America have been immune to that because the earth has become very energy dependent. Okay, and with America being in control of all that energy in the Strait of Hormuz, all right, gave them leverage in the earth. Okay, and with them, all right, closing Iran, because Iran was able to sell, but they wasn't able to sell in global markets. They had Iran had to deal with sanction markets. All right, so they had to most sort of barter their oil. They couldn't get wealthy like these Saudi Arabia, UAE, these other GCC nations. All right, Iran couldn't rake in trillions of dollars from their oil, even though they have high reserves. Okay, even though they can produce, had the potential to produce and export a lot of oil. Well, they wasn't allowed to participate on these global markets like the GCC nations. Okay, but you had a few nations that were able to participate on global markets, and they would do barter deals with Iran, mainly Russia and China, and that's what's been keeping Iran afloat. Okay, so now when you go into just go into energy, when you go into oil, because it's a global market, like he said, it's not, you can't just look at, okay, America got reserves, they good. It don't work like that. Okay, this is a global market because America has a lot of reserves, but America uses a lot of oil. Remember, America has the most data centers in the world by far. Okay, by far, America has a lot of data centers, and they use a lot of energy. Okay, so let me see, because I had chat to pull up a couple of charts. That's not the one. That's another one. We'll get to that when I brought this up. Okay. So just go into energy itself. Let's go from there. Just dealing with energy by itself. Okay. So even, those GCC nations, they played a major part in this new global system, all right, that these elites are building out. Okay. Because they want to base everything where all their energy is at. Okay. Now, it said list of countries that have the most oil reserves and list of countries that export the most oil and gas, all right, and who they export to. So when you go into just a list of these oil reserves, all right, let me go back up. Everybody, because we talk about oil reserves, well, let's, get into it. So when you go here, all right, it says countries with the largest proven oil reserves. Okay, remember Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, Canada, Iran is number 4, Iraq, Russia is number 6. Okay, Kuwait, the UAE, United States, and Libya. Okay, now what we have to understand, America controls the oil that comes from the UAE, Kuwait, Iraq, okay, Libya, all right, Canada, and Saudi Arabia. The only 2 nations on this list that America doesn't control their oil exports is Iran and Russia. Okay, America had all this on lock. So out of the 10, excluding America, these other 9 nations that are top oil reserves in the world, America has 7 of them on lock. So including America, all right, under the banner of America, you have the top oil reserve nations in the world. Okay, so the Strait of Hormuz, that was going to swing Iran over to America, and America would have had 9, okay, of the top 10 reserve oils. All right, they would have had 9 of the top 10 nations that has the biggest oil reserve. They would have had 9 out of 10. Okay, and this was going to isolate Russia even more. Okay, and it was going to give America more leverage on every other nation in the earth that depends on their oil that comes from there, man. Okay, so that would have been a major swing to America. You see, America has had 2 major wins of late as far as these energy wars. And that's when they took down Venezuela, and that's when they toppled Syria. Okay, because even when you go back to the war in Syria, okay, it was rumored that they was warring over pipelines, okay, to feed gas into Europe. All right, so matter of fact, we'll get it off of Radazan. It says, so you go to top exporting countries and where they export to. So the top exporters are Saudi Arabia, all right, which you have China, India, Japan, and South Korea. Okay, Russia number 2 was China and India. Okay, and it says United States. All right, and the United States exports mainly to Canada, all right, Mexico, the Netherlands, and South Korea. Okay, so Canada and America, they do a lot of, oil deals. Okay, so America's a big exporter. All right, it says Canada exports mainly to United States. That's his number one customer is the United States. Okay, Canada, most of their oil goes to the United States. All right, Iraq. All right, now this is the Strait of Hormuz. All right, China, India, all right, and South Korea. You see these same few nations, India, China, Japan, okay, they go from the UAE, the natural gas, okay. America's the number one LNG leader, which their gas goes to United Kingdom, France, and Japan. Okay, so you have, just to show you the pattern of these main players, all right, when it comes to exporting oil, is the GCC nations, okay, Iran, Russia, and America. Okay, so the main exporters of oil in the world are America, oil and liquid natural gas, which is LNG. You have America, Russia, the GCC nations, all right, and Iran. Okay, America already has the GCC. Well, they had it on lock. All right, but that's being disrupted now. But before this war, America had it on lock. Okay, and they was attempting to lock down Iran, and that would have swung a lot of power, okay, in the favor of America, man, as far as these energy wars. Okay, so just real quick, just to show you that they've been battling with these energy wars for a while. All right, because even when they was in Syria, this is an older article, and this is during the time you had what's it, Bashar? Yeah, you had the Bashar regime. Okay, that was in Syria. So I think this article a few years old, but just want to go into some quick information. All right, I think this article may be almost 8 years old. But you go here, it says 6 years into 6 years into a conflict that has killed at least 400,000 people, there is a widely held belief that the bloodshed in Syria is simply another war over Middle Eastern energy resources. The bloodshed, so the theory goes, is a proxy battle about two proposed pipelines which would run across the country and onto Turkey and Europe. Okay, while neither pipeline has left the drawing board or indeed was ever realistic, that has not dampened the theory's popularity as its core reason for the Syria conflict. All right, so this was a rumor dealing with certain pipelines. Okay, one pipeline was on the benefit of, all right, Russia and Iran, all right, feeding, okay, a pipeline that will go through, Iran, Iraq, all right, Syria, and on into the Mediterranean, into Europe. Okay, so then you had Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. It is claimed rejected the Qatari pipeline, which you're going to show you, because the Qatari pipeline would have been the American pipeline. Okay, which was going to go from Qatar, okay, through Saudi Arabia, okay, and through Turkey, through Israel, through Turkey, and into Europe. Okay, and that would have made that region of the world way more dependent on what pro-American, okay, pipelines. All right, but you had Bashar al-Assad rejected the Qatar pipeline in 2009. And that's why eventually America started this whole thing with ISIS to start to go into what? Syria. Okay, to take down what? All right, Bashar al-Assad. But it was Iran and Russia that was propping them up for a long time. So when Syria failed, we had to tie it all together. Remember, Syria fell last year, okay, which was a win for the West, okay? And then what? Venezuela fell. That regime fell, which was a win for the West. So America was on the roll. It was 2-0 as far as energy wars. Okay, so Iran was going to be, all right, the grand prize if they could do what they did in Syria and Venezuela. Well, Iran was going to be the grand prize, and that's why you see they started to push when they took down Venezuela. What did they start sending Venezuela oil to? To Qatar. You see, to Qatar, because through Qatar they plan on, all right, feeding oil through a certain pipeline into Europe. Okay, which is going to X out Russia. Okay, and level up America, man. You see, so it says as a result, some commentators claim that the U.S. and its European and Gulf allies, including Qatar, decided to orchestrate a rebellion against Assad to ensure that the pipe dreams became reality rather than the Iranian option. Russia in turn backed Syria to ensure its own energy interests prevailed. Iran is also, all right, an ally of the current regime in Damascus. And that's when Assad was still there. You know, he fell, all right, not too long ago. I won't say it was last year. Okay. So now, when you just look at these different, because the green is a pipeline that was backed by Russia and Iran, coming from Iran, okay, going through Iraq, going through Syria, and then out into the Mediterranean to feed into Europe, okay. But then you had this pipeline that was going to run from Qatar, which this was the American pipeline, okay, that was going to run from Qatar, all right, through Saudi Arabia, okay, through Jordan, through Syria, okay. That's why it was a big deal, all right, to gain control over Syria, okay, in these energy wars, okay, through Syria and on into Turkey, running across Turkey into, all right, Europe. You see, so this is, you know, the rumored pipelines, all right, that they was battling for Syria, but you needed Syria, okay, to be able, you need control of Syria to run these pipelines, okay. So the West, they toppled Syria, okay, got Assad out of there, okay. Then they went and got Venezuela, all right, got Maduro out of there, and then they went to Iran because the Abraham Lincoln was the aircraft carrier strike team, okay, the strike group that was in Venezuela. They were supposed to come home and dock in Virginia, okay, but they was ordered no, stay at sea, all right, and then they was what, deployed to Iran, all right. America was trying to close this thing out, man, and make a major move in these energy wars, man, okay, if that makes sense. You know, I'll try to make it concise as possible, you know, but I pray all this is making sense. You know, I know it's quite a bit of info, but let's go from there. All right, because let's say this new world order system causes the use of a lot of energy, man, and that's why they want to do depopulation to free up more resources. All right, and you have these nations jockeying for position for this new world order, man. Okay, all of them have new world order ambitions, and they know it. The faction with the most energy is going to go into this system with the most power. Okay, so the faction that has the most energy going into this new world order is going to have the most power, and they plan on starving the masses out from energy to free up more resources for empire. empire, man. Okay, they only want 500 million people on the earth anyway. Okay, so we're seeing an energy grab, and they can starve out the people. Okay, the masses. All right, which will free up more resources for empire, man. Okay, so now let's I think I had another video I had. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, so what Iran is starting to do now, okay, is to target certain tech infrastructure, man. Okay, which this is just completely backfiring. Okay, for these devils, man, and they just and they're being forced to have to go with they move, man. Okay, because they had a lot of things. America, these elites had a lot of things set up. Okay, in this region, the GCC, man. Okay, so Iran is just not hitting these nations just based off, you know, their this certain. It's not based off this conflict of them aiding America and allowing them to use their bases in this conflict. No, they understand the energy infrastructure that America has set up. All right, is they doing all these energy grabs, man. Okay, so let's play this a little more. Let's play this, yeah.
GC says from now on, for every assassination, an American company will be destroyed. They warned the U.S. Our repeated warnings about the necessity to stop terrorist operations were ignored. And today, following your terrorist attacks and those of your Israeli allies, several Iranian cities citizens were martyred. Since the main element in designing and tracking assassination targets are American ICT and AI companies, in response to these crimes, from now on, the main and effective institutions involved in terrorist operations will be our legitimate targets. So now they are still killing Iranians and targeting them, and they're using American AI companies to do it, their technology. So Iran's like, we're just going to hit those companies, and they're going to. We advise the employees of these institutions to immediately leave their workplaces to preserve their lives. Also, residents of areas around these terrorist companies in all countries of the region within a 1 kilometer radius should leave their homes and workplaces and seek safe places. Companies actively involved in terrorist designs will be subject to retaliatory action for every assassination. So that's what's happening. In 2020, Iranian hackers breached dozens of U.S. companies and government agencies. In 2022, they hit so they don't have to necessarily hit them with a rocket, which they can, but they can hack into them and destroy them. That's what they're saying. And they hit Albania so hard the entire government went offline for days, a NATO country taken down by Iran's cyber unit.
But then their AI minister won't be able to oversee their corruption like they're enjoying now.
And now they're telling you exactly who's next with a date, April 1st. The scariest part of this, the companies on the list have...
And which this was from a few days ago, which is going into the fact, all right, that Iran, you know, is now beginning to target tech companies, man. You know, and Larry, Wilkerson, okay, the old, you know, he was Joint Chief of Staff under Colin Powell, all right, cabinet. But yeah, he says, you know, he got a glimpse at Iran's next target list, you know, and it's more tech based. Okay, it's more energy based. Okay, and who's feeding Iran these target lists? China and Russia. You see, we're seeing energy wars, man. All right, I meant to time stamp it before I started the live stream dealing with Larry Wilkerson. I forgot at that point, but he mentioned he's seen the next set of targets for Iran, and he said it's going to cause major damage to the energy sector, man. All right, in which, at the end of the day, the elites, they need a global, all right, collapse anyway, economically. Okay, but you best believe they had other plans on doing it. They was gonna do it anyway. Okay, but now they're doing it off the back foot. Okay, if it would have went like they wanted it with Iran, okay, it would have gave them leverage out this world. Okay, it would have put them in the driver's seat of the energy on a whole nother level. Okay, but if things are beginning to backfire, they're operating off the back foot because they still got to collapse the economy to bring in this new, all right, currency, all right, which is going to be, only accessible by merging with technology in order to have access to this new currency that these elites want to bring, okay, to the global stage. You're going to have the technology, man. Okay. But yeah, man, it's interesting. I'll see if I can find that clip. Might have play it later on. I'll rise on in the morning, but yeah, he said he's seen the target list for Iran, and it's more tech based and energy based. Okay, so it's gonna be interesting, man. All right, and I say Russia and China are in bed with elites. Okay, and which if Russia and China is influencing Iran, well, you're gonna see elitist agendas even coming forth, out of Iran. Okay, but it's working against the overall scheme. Okay, these devils, man. Which they only have one thing left to do, and that's the MOTB. They got to come on with it, and they're gonna have to do some drastic things in America to speed this thing up, man. To throw America into a major crisis, man. It's gonna have to go draft. They're gonna have to skip some steps, man. Okay, and whatever because they not in the driver's seat like they were. Okay, so they're gonna have to skip some steps. All right. I believe in the spirit, I believe that these devils gonna have to skip some steps. Me just speculating as a man. They're gonna have to skip some steps and really come on with the come on. So let's play a little bit more of this.
More power over your daily life than the government that's supposed to protect them. And there's no missile defense system for a 0-day exploit. So
great midterms. Hey, at least it's not a nuke. Hey, well, I'll tell you what, it wasn't a nuke.
So so there it is. So I already read it to you. Those companies fighting in the Middle East has highlighted the risks of President Donald Trump's push to expand American tech infrastructure in the region. Iranian drone strikes knocked out power to Amazon Web Services cloud computing facilities based in the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain on March 3rd. And experts warned it wouldn't be an isolated attack. I think it's highly unlikely that it will be the last time, as data centers become more and more important for a broad range of critical infrastructure. Sam Winter-Levy, a fellow in the Technology and International Affairs program at Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, told Politico earlier this month in response to the AWS incident. The continued warnings from Iran pose a significant threat to U.S. tech companies and raise a question about how the facilities will be protected in the event of an attack. We can't think about this AI infrastructure as purely a commercial asset in nature. So
because you go into Palantir, because a lot of these assassinations, these assassinations that the small hats and Americans are able to do is because they're able to track the leadership based off technology. Okay, that's why Iran has pretty much went black as far as technology. Okay, shut down the internet, it crippled, all right, the devil's ability, all right, to do these assassinations. Okay, because Palantir, it turns every device you have into surveillance. Okay, and anything that's online, well, Palantir has access to it. All right. I think that was it was on one of them Fast and Furious, like the Eye of God. If y'all remember that movie, you know how they was able to just hack into any device that was online, okay, and turn it into surveillance. You see, and they was doing that, all right, by what? These data centers that's in their region. Okay, that's why they was able to find these leaders in this region, because you have these mega data centers and these tech companies in their region, all right, and they was turning their region into a surveillance region. That's why they was able to hit, you know, even going back to General Soleimani. Okay, they're able to track you real time based on these devices and the internet and these data centers, man, that's computing all this data real time. Okay, and let's just go into how energy dependent these data centers are, man. Okay, and just to show you, and then one thing that the Lord is constantly showing us is that these devils are limited, man. Okay, let's go here. So what did I ask? Yeah, so let's go here. It said, what are the major resources, all right, needed to power data centers? It said power in modern data center requires a mix of energy sources, infrastructure, and supporting resources. The biggest one breaks down into a few key categories. Electricity, primary resource. This is by far the most critical. All right, data centers consume massive amounts of power to run servers, storage, and networking, all right, equipment. Common electricity sources: fossil fuels, natural gas, and coal. You see that? The first one: fossil fuels, natural gas, and coal. Okay, so to physically run this new world order, this devil needs resources, man. Okay, and these elites, the earth has been given into their hand. They have control of these resources, but we send a tug of war, okay, with these resources, because that's who's going to have the power. Those that have the resources going into this new system. This is how these devils are thinking, man. Okay, it says renewable, like solar, wind, and hydro. All right, which solar, wind, and hydro engine is not strong enough. Fossil fuels is the strongest source of energy, man. Okay, it's like this devil talking about building data centers in space so they can have a stronger source of solar power, man. Showing you that these devils are limited with what they got on the earth, man, to pull this off. Okay, so now it's just like, look, we're just gonna star the earth. You know, you're gonna star the earth of energy, which ultimately energy produces food. Okay, it says too. It says water for cooling. It says cooling is essential because servers generate a lot of heat. Water is used in cooling towers and liquid cooling systems. Some data centers use millions of gallons, all right, per day. This raises concerns in drought-prone regions. Okay, so all this technology does is just take from the earth, man. It takes from life. Okay, these data centers are vampires, man. They just suck the life out the environment, man. Okay. It says cooling infrastructure is closely tied to water and electricity, air conditioning system, all this required energy, fossil fuels, liquid cooling, more efficient, increasingly popular, okay, which is their drinkable water, advanced airflow design and heat management. It says physical infrastructure, all right, the building itself, you know, the computers themselves, the storage systems, all right, the backup generators, which are what? Ran by diesel. Okay, these require raw materials like silicon chips, all right, copper, wire, and rare earth elements. Okay, and this is one of the main things that these nations are going to war for, is going to be these resources, man. Okay, as they see that this dollar system is being dismantled, they know now it's about having physical resources, man. Because there was a time when the dollar, okay, was just as good as the resource itself. Okay, because the dollar was accepted by everyone everywhere. Okay, so there was a time when the dollar, which it still is, all right, the dollar is still doing its thing. Okay, but the dollar is just as good as the resource itself, man. But now these nations are seeing, okay, under the dollar, you know, we're subjugated to the sanctions of the West. Okay, but outside the dollar, we can enterprise now. We can empire now outside this dollar system. Okay, which they was going to do it anyway. But see, now the Lord has thrust them into an overdrive, man, to come on with it. Okay, it says backup power system reliability is critical. Downtime is extremely costly. Diesel generators, most coming back up. All right. It says land and location. All right, you're seeing land grabs. Okay, it says where a data center is built matters a lot. Access to cheap and stable electricity. Well, why are they looking for cheap and stable electricity? They're trillionaires, man. But it raised up the prices for everyone else, man. Okay. So I asked it real quick. Could an expanding digital society that needs a lot of data centers run into resource shortages? It says yes, an expanding digital system can run into resource constraints from data center growth, but it's not a simple we'll run out scenario. It's more about localized bottlenecks, infrastructure strain, and sustainability limits. It says electricity is the biggest pressure point. Data centers are already major power consumers, and demand is rising fast, especially within AI. In some regions, utilities are struggling to keep up with new data center projects. This can lead to delays in new data center construction, increased electricity prices, greater reliance on fossil fuels if renewables lag. Okay? Because the solar and hydropower can't keep up with the way that this devil wants to expand. Okay? Because the devil has a lot of ambition, man, with this new world order. Okay? And he's finding himself not having the resources to really pull this thing off, man. So he's getting drastic, man, which is going to lead into what? Actual war, which is starting actual war. Okay? And these nations are in what they call in the fight to survive, man. Okay? It like we're seeing them, wrestle over these resources, and whoever gets the resource, they're gonna choke everybody else out. Okay. It says companies like Microsoft and Amazon are even exploring dedicated power sources, including nuclear and large-scale renewable forms, to avoid grid constraints. Okay. So you have all this. Okay. It says material and supply chain. It said data centers rely on specialized hardware, semiconductors, rare earth elements, copper, and other metals. The global chip ecosystem, dominated by companies like NVIDIA, okay, which is on the target list of Iran, and TSMC, has already shown fragility during shortages. Okay, this thing is fragile. He trying to, he projects himself like this is just, like just like it's just so well extremely put together. This thing is fragile, man. This global system that this devil has operated now is fragile, and the one that he's trying to throw up is fragile, man. Okay, it says large physical space. But that's pretty much the point, man. This nigga limited, man. Okay. And now they in the battle for it all, man. Okay. So let's go here. Let's get some precepts. I think that Oh yeah, let's play this one more. Okay. And just to show you how people, they know a little something, but they still simple. All right, let's play this one more video, then we'll get a few more precepts. All right, let's play this.
Yeah, I watched a Sean Ryan episode where he was, I forget the name of the company, but they had rolled out this AI drone that can fly 100 miles an hour, and it doesn't need to be operated by a human. It can fly in and out of trees. It has a siren. It has GPS coordinates. It actually follows the person. It identifies a person, the body type, the facial recognition. And if you go into a building and you come back out, it'll just sit there and wait for you, you know? And then they're also integrating, I mean, I don't want to fearmonger or anything, but what we're seeing is this. They are setting up a surveillance state. This is happening, all right? So the thing is, you know, Ian Carroll, I watch Ian Carroll. I've talked to him a few times as well. And he says, you know, we have a lot more power than we give ourselves credit for. And that gives me hope because I think he's right, you know, but the thing is, we have to do something because I don't know what we can do, you know, and I don't mean that in a way of like some dissident, you know, like a naive type of way. I'm just saying there's got to be some type of way that we can push back enough to keep this from happening, because they are bulldozing straight through anything that we were fearful of and are already implementing. I mean, it's 1 year, a few months in after a year, and it feels like the whole world is closing in on us. And it's just a few people at the very top. And then what do? They fired anybody that would hold them accountable. They fired any legislator or legal counsel that would hold them accountable. They bought Trump Jr. owns a large significant portion of Polymarket.
And he's talking about these tech companies, man. Okay. And one thing that Trump has done, all right, him being a puppet he is, he has deregulated, okay, all the tech companies, man. So they have free range to do what they want to do. Okay, to just throw these data centers up anywhere. They're bypassing, all right, all these red tape and bureaucracy. Okay, to where they don't have to deal with the environmental sector of the government anymore. They bypassed it. They don't have to deal with, all right, the energy sector, okay, of the government anymore. They bypass all that. Okay, they don't even have to deal with these states. Okay, they set up things to where states can't regulate AI. AI has free range. These tech companies have free range to do what they want. But they're rolling this thing out, man. They got to come on with it. Okay, and that's why they're gonna have to come on with something in America to throw this place into crisis, man. Okay, they have people desperate for this sea hip, man. Okay, they're gonna throw the world in crisis, man. Okay, because these devils, you know, because we don't, you know, we know that they have disagreements, they're divided. Okay, well, they're still unified on particular concepts of this new world order, but we're just starting to see the pushing and shoving get a little more serious, man. Okay, I say they're fighting their way into the door. Okay, of this new world order, man. Okay, so we're gonna still see things roll out as far as a global reset, a new global currency. Okay, this technology being mandated, these things gotta roll out. You know, so they agreed just enough to keep these things in motion. All right, and they disagree enough to go into all-out war. Eventually, they're going to go into all-out war, if that makes sense. Okay, so we don't know the details of this and that of, okay, this section is doing this section, but we know it's some division just based off the scriptures. Satan divided against itself can't stand. Okay, but then we know it's a concept of unity to roll out particular things in units and unity as far as a global reset. Okay, so yeah, let's play a little more of this. All right.
So allegedly, in my opinion, making predictions on what the, I mean, if you go look at Polymarket, it's like, what will Trump say at this announcement? Will we finish this in Iran at this date? If you own Polymarket and you were in the White House, what do you think is going on? Okay, so it's from all sides. Crypto, they disbanded any significant oversight for crypto because what are they doing? As soon as they got in, they wanted to make a bunch of money in crypto. It's like every time they take out oversight, what did they do with AI? They released it for 10 years with no boundary. Oh, because of China, right? So when we look at this, we have to understand that we are in a situation now where it is us versus them at this point. And I hate to say it that way. I really do, because I don't have that type of bone in my body where I want to be against my government, because they actually work for us.
Super simple. Okay, and you see people are like this are going to fold and take the seat here. Most of these people that we see talking on these channels with, they bring out certain information, they're going to fold and take the chip, man. Look how simple. Now here it is, all this information, but you still say that your government works for you. How? Give an example. Okay, give an example as of late. How does your government work for you? Okay, he said, I don't want to say them versus us, nigga. That's what it is. It's the elites versus the world. Okay? Hell yes, they against you, man. Okay? As you just see how simple and naive, okay, Americans are, man. They're running back again. Like I said, then we'll get some more pre-sales, man.
It is us versus them at this point. And I hate to say it that way. I really do, because I don't have that type of bone in my body where I want to be against my government, because they actually work for us. You know what I mean? Like, that's the reality, and that's how it should be. And I think that we have forgotten that, and they have too. So that's why I started the website that I built, Americans.
Yeah, man. So let's go from there. All right. Because they're rolling this thing out. They took all the guardrails and restrictions that was, that held them up as far as all this, bureaucracy and red tape of these governments. All right. To now they just can do what they want. Trump, he's a dictator. He does what he wants. He goes to war where he wants to go to war, or where they tell him to go to war. Okay. He has no Congress has no restraint on Trump. Okay, because he's serving, all right, the entities, the elites that run the Congress, man. They pay the Congress, man. You think Trump is the only one they got, footage on with the Epstein thing? Okay, absolutely not, man. Okay, so everything, every government has been compromised by the elites to some degree, man. Some more than others, but all have been compromised and tainted by the agenda of the elites, which is a new world order. Okay, it said, this is Proverbs 11:5. It said the godly are directed by honesty, man, which is this truth. We're being guided in truth, man. Okay, and the truth is the Lord is getting ready to establish a righteous kingdom in the earth forever, man. Okay, and this kingdom is going to fail. All right, we're directed by that. See, we're not directed by, the ambition of this world and what these devils think that they're finna get ready to do. We know it's going to fail. We know they're going to attempt it. We know people are going to get sea-hipped. Okay. We know he's going to get so far. All right. But we know it's going to fail. We know the truth of the matter, man. And knowing the truth of the matter is why I say it's going to be what the wisdom and knowledge should be, the stability of our time. We know how this thing is. We're stable. We're comforted in understanding that there's things that have to play out, but we know how it is. Okay, it said the wicked fall beneath the load of their sin. It's a lot for this devil to bear, man. Esau has a lot to pull off. Okay, and then weight getting heavy for him, man. And that's why he's getting more frantic. Okay, more reckless. Okay, it says the godliness of good people rescues them, which is going to be the elect. Is going to be rescued. Okay, delivered. Okay, okay, from the wrath, man, because the Lord is going to destroy Esau's ambition through wrath, man. Okay, the Lord is getting ready to show the devil true power. The Lord finna get ready to show him the difference between him, all right, and Esau. Okay, a true God, okay, versus someone that the Lord set up. So the Lord is going to show Esau between, the Lord is going to show Esau the difference between, all right, a true God and a man, and a mere man. Okay, when he comes and destroys everything that this devil is trying to establish, man. It said the ambitions of the treacherous people traps them, man. Okay, so this devil's wicked ambition, okay, which he's treacherous. That's another thing, is treacherous. That's why it's going to be a lot of double crossing, triple crossing. Like I said, they agree, but it's a lot of treachery in the mix of these agreements, man. Esau, this is what Esau does. He's never not been treacherous, man. Okay, so this whole new world order thing, we want to see, you know, this treachery lead, okay, into major war, okay, all out brawl for it all, man. Okay, so I'll leave it there. All right, and it's all the Lord's will. You know, this is all written. You know, and that's why we're able to, you know, commentate on these things based on the scriptures. Okay, so you know the point was made. You know, Lord will, you brothers. All right, and you sisters was edified. You know, and there's anything, you know, you don't understand, you know, ask. You know, we can tap in. You know, ask questions about anything. Leave on the comment board. Something you see, you know, that you know, you want me to go into through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemal Shai, you know, Avaradazar, we'll get into it, man. You know, there's a lot of moving parts, but if you stick close to prophecy, you know, it stays in line, it stays in, you know, it stays in tune with the true narrative of what's going on. Okay. So, Lord will, you brothers. All right, and you sister was edified. Till next time I say Shalom. Mashallah, Bob, Soon, Shalom.